Okay. All right. It sounds like I can hear myself echoing in the room, so I think hopefully you can all hear me okay.
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Josh, it looks like you're in a hotel room somewhere, same as me. Oh, now I can see you. Where are you located?
I am in Washington, D.C. this week because it's the Transportation Research Board conference. So 12,000 transportation professionals descend on Washington.
Okay, I'm going to shift the
wow.
view over a little.
Okay.
Where are you?
Interesting. I am in Galway, Ireland right now.
You win.
In Ireland. And it is 9 p.m. here, and I am running on fumes and caffeine at the moment, but I'm going to do my best in this meeting. I may need a little bit of help, though, as we're going through this, but I appreciate everyone's patience and apologize that I couldn't be there in person. I'm here on business, and so I have to take care of my regular job before the session starts next week. So I'm going to go ahead, if everyone's ready and there's no objection, and open this meeting of the Outdoor Adventure Commission. And thanks everyone for being there. Assuming that we have a quorum there, and between everyone that's there in person and online. I'm going to go ahead and go to the first item. This is a big meeting. This is an important meeting for us to hear the final project presentations for our restricted account prioritization, funding prioritization list. And so we're going to try and get through these as efficiently as we can, and then have a discussion of prioritizations that we can present to the legislature before the session starts next week. So the next item on our agenda is to approve minutes, and hopefully people have had a chance to review those. And if there's no comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Jason Curry, so moved.
All right, we have a motion to approve those minutes. Any discussion on those minutes? If none, everyone in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? It sounds like those have been approved, so that vote was unanimous. So those minutes are approved. So we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is having Shane explain a new administrative rule, adjudicatory proceedings. Shane, go ahead.
Thank you. Shane Stroud, Assistant Attorney General for the Division of Outdoor Recreation. So the Utah Administrative Procedures Act requires the division to enact a rule that speaks to adjudicatory proceedings. We've been proceeding under the old rule that we had when the divisions split. We have now drafted this new rule. Director Ferry has signed it, and so it's ready to go. It's ready to be filed with the Office of Rulemaking. The purpose of this rule is just to set out procedures for adjudicatory proceedings that might come before the division. The rule before that Parks had was sufficient for that purpose, but it was probably a little bit too complicated. This is a little more streamlined. We do not anticipate too many adjudicatory proceedings, if any, before the Division of Outdoor Recreation. The statute requires us to notify the Outdoor Adventure Commission when we make rules, and so that's what we're doing now. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. If not, then consider yourselves notified. We don't need a vote on it. It's just a notification.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you for that notification. And if anyone has any questions about those, I'll direct you to Shane. Since we're not taking a vote, then I don't think that we need to necessarily discuss it in too much detail right now, but appreciate the notification. All right, we'll move on to the next item, and we can have, I don't know, Patrick, if you want to introduce the project presentations.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so we have, I'm getting an echo somewhere. We have our final presentations today. I think we have a total of 5. So to start, we're going to hear from Wellsville City for the Sherman Hills project proposal. And then we're going to close the meeting for a moment. We'll come back. We're going to hear, from Greg Rains from the Civilian Marksmanship Program, then Lora Anthony from Mountain Trails Foundation, then Tammy Pearson from Beaver County, and finally Quinn Bennion from Vernal City. And so I guess with that, go ahead and start the presentation for Sherman Hills.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
And then I guess maybe just a quick note for all of our presenters in the audience. You have the option to join the Google Meet. It's on the calendar invite if you'd like to send or share your own slides, or I'm happy to share them here if you just want to kind of give me the cues of when to go to the next slide.
Okay, now? Well, thank you, Commission members and Mr. Chair. We appreciate being here. I'm Jack Draxler. I'm from Cache County. Scott Weaver is with me here, representing the Trails community in Cache County. I served 10 years in the state legislature, and all 10 of those years I served on the Natural Resources, Agriculture, and Environment Standing Committee. I go way back with Kate and Jeff, and have good memories, have a lot of respect for this organization. I was very excited when the Outdoor Adventure Commission was created. We're here to present in behalf of Wellsville City a request to essentially preserve some land and some trails, particularly trailheads. As you all know, the demand for outdoor recreation, and especially for trails that are adjacent to national forest, has just dramatically increased everywhere in the state, including in Cache County and specifically Wellsville City. And so we're here to tell you why we seek these funds and what we intend to do with them. We expect to partner, of course, with Cache County, the state of Utah, certainly Wellsville City. A year ago in Cache County, we finally passed an open space bond, and part of that $20 million bond was to create the Cache County Open Space Advisory Committee that will then advise the Cache County Council on and somewhat prioritize proposed projects. This is actually kind of a hybrid of several projects, because Wellsville City is kind of in a critical spot at the south end of Cache County. We specifically want to preserve a couple of trailheads and then hopefully create some others. There are 2 trailheads that are threatened at this time by potential development and other things. There are properties that are in private ownership that we would certainly like to have the opportunity to put into either public ownership or conservation easement. I'm going to have Scott talk to you about trails specifically and the tremendous usage and demand that there is for trails in our county and specifically Wellsville City.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate that. Again, by way of introduction, my name is Scott Weaver. I've been a resident of Cache Valley for 25 years and Wellsville City for 15 years. I'm an avid trail runner and hiker, and some years ago I created Cache Valley Trail Runners, an online community group to facilitate and support that activity. If you just go back to the other slide real quick here, I've been involved in the pursuit of the Wellsville's Trails and Active Transportation Plan for a number of years. What we've done over the past couple of years is seek input from the community of Wellsville, as well as the greater area. This has been done through door knocking, sharing information. We've taken surveys, and this has culminated in a couple different open houses in the city of Wellsville, where we've sought to get that feedback, find out what people want, what's of most interest. And trails is clearly an important feature and an important facility for outdoor transportation as well as recreation in Wellsville. Next slide. This is just one graph that represents trail count, trail data at a trail that's just 4 blocks from my home, the Murray Farm Trailhead. And as you can see, over the past number of years, there's quite a bit of usage there. The numbers on the left axis are kind of small to read, but the average is there. The average there is between 500 and 1,000 trail users per week. That's quite a number for this trail, and it obviously fluctuates throughout the year, but it's heavily used spring, summer, fall, and winter. And I think that's just representative of the interest and the need to support and to preserve trails in Wellsville and in Cache Valley. Next slide. This shows the population growth trends. This is just for Wellsville City, but you can see the growth from 2010 to 2020, and the projected growth in 2030. Those numbers are increasing. There's no question about that. The number of people are going to increase, and the usage of those trails is going to increase as well. Next slide. So just to conclude, or to summarize here, this project is that we're seeking funding for has a significant scope. This represents not only Wellsville, not only Cache Valley, it's the gateway, as Jack mentioned, to Cache Valley, but other visitors who are going through to Bear Lake, to Wyoming, to Idaho. So it is it's visible as you go through Sardine Canyon, and has a significant scope, both in visibility as well as in use. It benefits a number of local communities. Obviously, we're representing Wellsville, but that's just a small number, a small portion of the communities in Cache Valley, as well as Box Elder County, Davis County, and Rich County, other users, other people, individuals that come to use our trails as well. Next slide. So this project would help to address overcrowding, as has been represented by the current and past use, as well as the projected population growth. There just aren't as many trails on the left side on the Wellsville Mountains as in other recreation areas, particularly the east side, Logan Canyon area. So this is really important, really visible, really significant, and we hope to both preserve that open space, as well as to create new trails and new trailheads to support that growth, and addresses the underserved as well. Acquisition of this property would facilitate the connection of trails from nearby communities, and make that property, make that recreational area accessible to others. It's noted here that this particular area has slopes of less than 20% typically, so it is quite suitable for that use. And I think the concluding 2 slides just represent the activities, summer activities, hiking, horseback riding, biking, and the last one here, whether it's mountain biking, fat biking, snowshoeing, skiing, it's important. People want it, people need it, and so we appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of Wellsville and seek to preserve this open space for everybody.
Any questions from the group? We appreciate very much the opportunity to present today. We feel like this is very much in harmony with the goals and the mission of the Outdoor Adventure Commission, and so we appreciate very much the chance to partner with you.
Thank you very much. And so I think at this point, we are going to go into a closed session portion of our meeting. We're going to hold the closed session within in the DNR auditorium there. And also for those that are going to be in the closed session that can remain online. And so I am going to ask for a motion to close the meeting for the purpose of property acquisition.
And let me just say the closed portion of the meeting will actually take place in room 1010 and online. So the commission members and invited guests for the closed session will leave this room and go to 1010, and we'll come back here when the open session resumes.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So can we have a motion to close the meeting for the purpose of discussing potential property acquisition? Okay.
So moved.
Okay. Okay, so a motion by Josh Van Jura. Is there a second?
The motion was from Jerry Taylor, and Jason Curry, I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. And for this motion, we need to take a roll call vote. Is there someone there in the room that maybe can help ask for the roll call vote?
This is Shane Stroud. I can ask for a roll call vote.
Okay, thank you, Shane.
So let's call the roll. Kate
can just
Bradshaw. Michelle McConkey.
Aye.
Jerry Taylor.
Aye.
Jeff Hartley.
Aye.
Vicky. Jason Curry.
Aye.
Pitt.
Aye.
Brandy.
Aye.
And Representative Stenquist.
Aye.
Did I miss anybody online?
Josh.
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 All right, that
Aye.
motion passes unanimously on roll call vote, so we will now go into closed session, and we will be back.
Councilmember Hinton is online.
Oh,
For those of us online, do we just stay on the current call?
there will be a new Google Meet, and I believe Carly will send out that information to you. Also, Representative Hinton, I know you're online as well. Could I get your vote?
Aye.
Okay, and so that was aye, I believe, so it's still unanimous.
And the Google Meet for the closed session is in your inbox for Representative Stenquist and for the rest that are online. We'll go into 10:10 for that.
Sounds good.
You're on mute.
All right. Okay, thanks everyone. We will now resume our meeting with, I think the next agenda is, next presentation is the Outdoor Shooting Range and Education Center.
Yeah, Winston screen.
Hey, I want to thank everybody for the opportunity to come out and really present and tell a little bit about what the civilian marksmanship program is. I've got a quick video that I want to show, but I've given everyone my slide presentation. Again, my name is Greg Rains. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of the Civilian Marksmanship Program. So I'm going to play a quick video and you can kind of see what we have in Alabama and what we want to bring here to Utah. I don't have any sound on this thing.
Talladega Marksmanship Park, a range for everyone.
There's no sound coming through.
The park is owned and operated by the Civilian Marksmanship Program, with a lineage dating back to 1903 and President Theodore Roosevelt. The CMP provides firearms safety education, marksmanship, and competition, with an emphasis on reaching America's youth. Whether you're into rifle, pistol, shotgun, or archery sports, Talladega Marksmanship Park has everything anyone could ask for. The 25-yard pistol range will test your shooting accuracy and judgment. The 15 action bays are used mainly for competition. Rifle enthusiasts can qualify on the 100-yard range and progress up to 600 yards. Each firing point is equipped with electronic targets and monitors. Shots are automatically displayed to the shooter on the firing line. Game shooters can take aim at life-size targets on the unknown distance range. Shotgun owners can be put through their paces shooting trap, wobble trap, skeet, 5-stand, and sporting clays. CMP offers monthly NSCA shotgun matches. The archery range has 20 lanes of life-size 3D wild game targets set amid their natural habitat. Monthly ASA tournaments are open to the public. The clubhouse is Talladega Marksmanship Park's focal point. Within its 13,000 square foot facility are 2 multimedia classrooms ideal for corporate events and a CMP Pro Shop with firearms, ammunition, and accessories. Featuring the U.S. Army M1 Garand for sale, the rifle dubbed the greatest battle implement ever devised by General George S. Patton. Talladega Marksmanship Park is 5 miles from Talladega Superspeedway, open to the public, no membership required. For more information, please visit thecmp.org, and we look forward to hearing your shots being fired at CMP's Talladega Marksmanship Park.
Well, thank you. That just kind of gives you a quick overview of what we have there in Talladega and what we want to bring here to Payson City here in Utah. We want to bring the Marksmanship Park to Payson City. I'm going to start with the slideshow now and kind of give you a little background. I don't know why my slides are not coming up there. I don't know if there's anything I'm doing wrong while the slides are not coming up there.
There you go.
Okay. Let's go back to the beginning. To give you a little background about what the Civilian Marksmanship Program is, we are a national organization dedicated, to the education of U.S. citizens. We are a 501c3, not-for-profit organization. What we're all about is training, educating with safety, marksmanship, and competition, with our main emphasis being on youth. And we really want to bring that, like I said, out here to Payson City. This is going to give you kind of an outline of what we have in Talladega. It's a 500-acre, $28 million facility, the 1,300 square foot clubhouse. And you kind of saw on the video, that's why I wanted to show the video, to kind of give you an overview of what we do have there in Talladega. Because like a lot of times, with my southern accent, when I start talking about a range, you think about somebody shooting in the backyard. But really, we're going to bring something that's very unique. That's the most technologically advanced shooting facility in the United States because of the KTS targeting system that we do have. The electronic targets that we offer there in Talladega, we purchased those from the Norwegian military, and it has sensors in the target when you hear the report of your rifle shooting at that target, it responds and it it gives you the signal right there at your booth, and it shows you exactly where you're shot. So that is really providing safety, and it puts people, and they can go through the range much quicker. There's no going down range, no calling the range cold, no saying we got to go change paper or anything like that. It is set right there in front of you. If you're shooting on lane 1 or lane 30, you can have your own, zooming in your rifle, zeroing in your scope. You can do that on your own without disturbing someone else. The operations there in Talladega, we average right around 2,000 customers a month. We have charity events, corporate events, we have national events, regional events. USPSA holds their back-to-back nationals. We have their world speed shooting competitions. When USPSA comes out there, we have shooters from all over the country. The 2 weeks they're there, we have over 1,500 shooters just for that event. IDPA is another one that comes out there. Glock is our main sponsor. They have a week that they'll bring shooters from all over the United States to come out there. We've had all 50 states visit Talladega in 20 different countries. They're either coming for one of these matches, or they've been there primarily to shoot on that KTS targeting system, because you just don't see that anywhere in the country. And that's what we want to do here in Payson City. You know, I said before that the Talladega Marksmanship part was the most advanced, the biggest. Well, Payson City will take over that once we establish that park in Payson City, because it will be even bigger than what Talladega is. And just knowing your marketplace, the NSSF provides us with a study where we can look at a 300-mile radius of what is in the marketplace here in Utah. And the reason we picked Payson City, I think something's wrong with this one.
You want to hit red on that one so it doesn't echo?
Thanks. One of the reasons we picked Payson City, we were looking at the potential growth for the area moving south from coming out of Salt Lake, moving down I-15, going toward, Las Vegas. And the place that we picked on West Mountain to establish our shooting range, you can see from I-15. Our facility in Talladega, even though it is on I-20 between Birmingham and Atlanta, and the population there is much larger, it is a little bit harder to get to our range there, and it's harder to direct people to come out 5 miles from the interstate to get out there. But with Payson City sitting right there on the hill on I-15, you can visualize that from the interstate. We'll have signage being able to get there. And a little bit different we're going to do in Payson with the range, not only having the same targets and the same distances we have in Talladega, we're going to do a little bit different. Because where our electronic targets in Talladega only went out to 600 yards, we're going to go out to 1,000 yards here in Payson City. And also on our unknown distance range, where we only went out to 600 yards too, we're going to go out to 1 mile. So it's going to be much bigger, much better, more advanced, and even the clubhouse is going to be a little bit bigger. We're going to do that at 15,000 square feet instead of the 13,000 like we have in Talladega. Going to establish, we got things in the works as far as what are we going to do really different there. We're thinking about maybe a restaurant to draw in more people. Some of the things we do in Talladega, we have corporate meetings that come out there. They use our corporate meeting spaces, and they don't even use the shooting range. So we're really looking to bring in all of the people that we can here to Payson, and looking at, averaging that 2,000 a month, and really can bring that number up to 3,000. I'd like to see it to 3,500 to 4,000 after the couple of years that's been in place, because of the place that it is going to be situated is going to be something very unique for the city of Payson, very unique for Utah County, and very unique for the state of Utah. And we'll be able to bring the CMP, Civilian Marksmanship Program's name here, the name that's been around since 1903. Not only we have the shooting range, but you saw in the video, we'll be able to bring the M1 Garands that we'll sell out there. That is a contract that CMP has had with the U.S. Army and the U.S. government, that we are the only entity that can bring those back to Anniston, Alabama, to our armories. We break those down, refurbish those guns, and are able to sell those to the public. And they really are so popular that, we've had to limit those to where the individuals can only buy 6 per year. So we look to have that. We'll also be having a commercial gun shop at the range there in Payson. So it's very exciting. It is going to be, upwards of a $30 million facility that we are going to be bringing out here to Payson. So like I said again, I appreciate you guys letting me come before you and be able to present and to show you this exciting, this exciting range that we're going to bring to the city and to the county and to the state, and what a huge economic impact this will bring to the area. So I'm going to close that out, and if you have any questions, please, I'll be happy to answer any question that you have about the civilian marksmanship program or the range that we are planning on developing.
Right. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
I have a question.
And-
Sorry, since we moved the microphones, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you explain to me the connection with the city of Payson? Will you just be locating within the city of Payson, or will there be some type of part of the program that, or the land that Payson City will own or operate?
It will not be the part of the city of Payson, but we have formed a relationship with the city of Payson. I have the mayor and the city manager here from the city of Payson now. And the land is going to be adjacent to Payson City. It is BLM land right now. We are going through the Recreational and Public Purpose Act to acquire that land. And since we are a 501c3, we are qualified to be in that act, and with the help of the city of Payson, and they've been there from the very start with us, the city of Payson has, and we have their full support, and we have the full support of the county as well, of Utah County. Mm-hmm.
Question?
Yes, sir.
Well, if you don't, online, we can't hear you.
Okay, my question is, how long have you been in that, the RPP process?
This is, I've been doing the application now. This is going on about 18 months. The RPP process has been about, I started filling out the application, I guess that's been about 15 months ago.
And they given you any indication how they're...
The first indication back in October, we've been doing monthly Zoom calls with the BLM. Back in, I guess it was late September, we were taken off the RPP because they said that they could not have us on there and give away, basically sell us contaminated land, because we did a land survey and there is small parcels of lead out there because there is shooting going on there right now. So they said they had to take us off that land because they could not sell us in good conscience dirty land, contaminated land. Well, the thing is, if they do sell it to us, that's one of our, in our clause, we go in there and we clean the land completely. Then we set up berms throughout the property, collection ponds. And our berms are not just earthen berms. Ours have our ballistic sand in there. So when a bullet is fired, the ballistic sand in that berm captures that lead and holds it. It will not leach out into the system, the water table, or the environment. Every 10 years, by the EPA standards, CMP has to go in and we do a lead mitigation. We pull all the berms out. We take all the lead out of the property again. It is clean again after 10 years. We rebuild the berms and start all over. So, in essence, what the BLM is doing is they took us off. I met with them again, and Dave, the city manager, we met with them again yesterday. Now they have put us back on there because they see that it would be in their best interest to keep us on there and sell us the land, because we're going to clean it. Because right now it is a dirty land. But once we acquire those 537 acres, we can go in there and we will clean the lead out. Then we'll go in and start clean, build our berms, and then start, clean from there. 2025, the land in Talladega will go through a lead mitigation there as well. That range will be there in 2025. 10 years will be his anniversary, so we'll do that in Talladega.
Question. So can you just give us a bit more detail as far as the transaction, the real estate? So it's 537 acres, correct?
That is correct, 537.
And what you're asking from the commission is a $2 million amount for property acquisition solely?
No, sir. That $2 million would either go through the property acquisition or it could go towards some of the building.
Okay.
Because we are not coming in, like I said, we are a 501c3. We are not looking for any taxpayer dollars to build this. We have an endowment over $250 million that we'll be able to come in, and we are going to buy that. But any help that we could get from you, from the state of Utah to be able to build this, then that just helps us further our mission of, educating the public and the mission of, educating the youth of America, because that is in our mission statement.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tell us about the education partnerships you have with schools or with children, youth in the state of Florida currently that would be used here in Utah.
In the state of Florida?
Well, I'm sorry, in the existing facility that you
Alabama.
highlighted in Alabama.
Yes, sir.
What do you anticipate in terms of education for the youth in Utah?
Yeah, what we'll do, we have a scholarship program that is set in, right now we have $300,000 that we give away in college scholarships. And what we do in Alabama right now, we have partnerships with most every high school shooting team. We bring those in. We educate youth as far down as even before they're 10 years old. They have to be 10 years old to come out and shoot at our range, which we put them through an education of gun safety, marksmanship, and then we want to get those kids involved in the high school programs because there is college shooting teams. We also give scholarship money even if they're not going to a shooting team, in college, we give that. But kids even below the age of 10, we have blow-up BB gun ranges that look like large bouncy houses. We bring those kids out to the range. We also take that BB gun range around to different locations throughout Birmingham, Montgomery, Mobile, Nashville, Atlanta. We take that BB gun range out there and teach those kids safely how to use a BB gun. And you're educating those kids. We like to say it's BB guns, and then we also have an air rifle facility there in Anniston, indoor air rifle facility, that we move those kids into the air rifles. There's a lot of money that we have available and college programs for air rifle teams. This past weekend there in Anniston, we had the Paris Olympic trials for the United States air rifle teams.
So I don't know if anyone from the state can help us understand what kind of need DWR has for more shooting facilities, but in my experience, our state is woefully under adequate in what we offer for rifle and pistol and shotgun training and practice. If you ever go to the Lee K Center any weekend after July, it's overwhelmed, and we don't offer enough facilities for those who hunt and shoot to get that type of training and education. We have like 270,000 hunting licenses issued in the state of Utah, and we don't have facilities to allow that. So I think this could be a really great opportunity.
And thank you, because that's one of the things. All of our range officers, our ROs, they go through our certification process of teaching. They go through an NRA certification process. There in Talladega, we have daily classes, and they are full for rifle, pistol, shotgun, and we just started our archery classes there in Talladega. So you're seeing that those classes fill up, and each day those classes are going through a training. They're going through classroom training, and then we actually take them out on the range, and they have to qualify to pass that class.
Mr. Chair, we've done 2 presentations in 1 hour and 17 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate all the questions, but let's maybe keep our questions brief. And unless there's something really pressing, let's move on to the next presentation.
Hey, thank you again, and I'll leave my card. If anybody has any questions, they could call me.
Okay. All right, and let's try and keep these next 3 to 10 minutes each. Total. Thank you.
So I'd like to welcome up Sarah and Laura. And then just a quick note of a correction. I think on the project list you all have, I accidentally wrote the Wasatch Trails Foundation, who is an organization, the Mountain Trails Foundation, has done an amazing job in mentoring, but Laura is actually with the Mountain Trails Foundation.
I thought I saw a change on the spreadsheet just now.
There we go. Okay. That doesn't look very happy.
Thanks, Rick.
No. We don't need to see that. Whoa. Patrick, do you want to run the slides here, and I'll just. You want me to unplug this? Please. Okay. Is that gonna hold? Maybe not.
Patrick's got it up.
Patrick's got it? Okay, I'll just unplug this. And
You are presenting, Patrick. Yeah, on the Google Meet, you're presenting on this screen, but it's just that these aren't showing it, so.
okay, so we don't get the benefit of the visual on this?
Paul's on it.
Come on, Patrick.
Describe it really well.
Oh my.
There we go.
You want to try and plug that one in and see if it'll.
Yep, those two screens are now active.
Great. Okay, super. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, this presentation is for the Wasatch Mountain Long Distance Trail. It's a request for a feasibility study funding. Utah is known around the world for its outdoor recreation, and yet when we look at this map of the National Scenic Trails, the map of the National Non-Motorized Backcountry Trails, we notice that Utah is missing a non-motorized backcountry scenic trail from its quiver of outdoor recreation amenities. We do, however, have a fractured system of motorized and non-motorized trails. The Great Western Trail is Utah's Centennial Trail. It is also one of 16 national millennial trails. The Wasatch Trail proposes to connect and create non-motorized trails through the Wasatch using parts of the existing non-motorized Great Western Trail. The development of the Wasatch Mountain Trail can and should be folded into the Great Western Trail concept. This will help boost awareness, funding, and aid with implementation of completing the Great Western Trail. With support from nonprofits, Trails Utah, my colleague Sarah here next to me, Mountain Trails Foundation, the Division of Outdoor Recreation, and recreation enthusiasts across the state, we're here today to request funding for a professional feasibility study for the Wasatch Mountain Long Distance Trail, a possible yurt and/or overnight camp system. The Wasatch Mountain Trail concept has its roots in a master's thesis out of Utah State University and actually came out of Tara's office a couple of years ago. Thank you, Tara. And while the thesis provides the initial scaffolding upon which to hang the vision for this trail, it does not suffice as a planning document. As you can see from the map, considerations for the alignment of this trail are numerous, and they include elements such as the environmental, economic, social, and aesthetic factors. Each one of those different colored alignments is addressing something, one of those elements of the trail alignment. So, you can see that there's a lot to consider when you're doing a trail of that magnitude. Land ownership, amenities to be included, such as shelters, trailheads, a long-term management strategy for the trail, and eventually a budget for all of this needs careful planning and professional consideration. To affect the best outcome for all of these elements, we need consultants, and for that we need money. Which leads us to the budget. That looks different. Okay. There are a couple of elements in the budget here that you can, scan through. I don't need to read them. I'd like to leave more time for Q&A. But basically, we have an estimate of about 800 hours of work to go into this feasibility study at a cost of $111,000 and some change. The feasibility study will be a 6-month process, it's estimated, and the consultants, Kaylin Consultants, I believe Scott is on the Zoom here, so if we have questions, he can answer specific questions as to the consultant's job. They are experts in one of very few in the country who specialize in long distance and backcountry trail implementation. And we will be examining the physical, social, and managerial feasibility of this project. The physical assessment would take into consideration a gap analysis. It would help us to identify terrain and land ownership constraints, physical impediments such as roads, private property, wilderness areas, et cetera. And then opportunities, this kind of falls under the we don't know what we don't know headline. So the consultants can help us recognize opportunities that we don't currently have identified. The social assessment would look at use patterns, current use patterns of existing trail. Can you guys hear me okay? This is kind of fritzing out here.
I can hear you fine.
Okay. How's that? Okay, thanks, Jason. Appreciate that.
If you could please move your mouth about 6 inches away from the mic, it's overpowering the system.
Okay, got it. Does that work? Yeah. Thank you. Anyway, back to the social assessment. We've got use patterns, conflict, needs and wants of trail users, gateway communities, stakeholders, desires and concerns for all those groups. And then moving on to the managerial assessment, that would look at the partner capacity.
For some reason, that did not transfer.
Okay, well, we'll just run through it really quickly. Partners, resources contributed through the partnerships with U.S. Forest Service, the nonprofits, the state, management, the structure among the partners, who does what and where and why, and then stewardship, public interfacing, volunteerism, and programming opportunities for this project. Utah already has a Bonneville Shoreline Trail, and it stands as a proof of concept for a long-distance trail. However, the BST is largely an urban experience, not a backcountry experience. And partnerships, as we lift this partnership or this project up out of the dust, the partners committed to giving it wings as of today are the Utah Division of Outdoor Rec, Mountain Trails Foundation, Trails Utah. We hope, with Vicki in the room, that she will really get behind this before she leaves, the Utah Office of Tourism. And as we're moving through the process of approaching the U.S. Forest Service and expect to get support from them as the Great Western Trail, which will be part of what we are trying to develop, is named as a priority in the U.S. Forest Service documents. Again, we believe that the Wasatch Trail will be comprised of great swaths of the Great Western Trail. This is our priority checklist, and I think if you want to take the time to read through that, or I can read through it, up to you guys. It shows that each one of the priorities has been met with a pretty substantial key part of the Wasatch Mountain Trail. So now we are open to question and answer, and I will have Sarah take the mic from here.
Thanks, Patrick.
I have any questions from the commission?
Yeah, Jeff, this is Pitt. I have a question. I have multiple questions. So the study will help to identify how many trails, how much trail will need to be built to make connections, everything else, right? Is that kind of the point of the assessment? Do you guys have any, or maybe this will be part of the assessment as well, but collecting data on other long trails? Because I know, for example, I talked to the Idaho Trails Association about their Centennial Trail and the struggles they have with either maintenance or funding maintenance, like sections that get abandoned or whatever, right? So I'm guessing that's part of the assessment as well, as like the ongoing maintenance of that.
Yeah, so this is really, the 50,000 foot look at whether this concept really can fly. We know there are sections of the trail out there, and we know that long distance trails are difficult to, realize on the ground. I mean, the Great Western Trail concept has been around since the late 80s. There's only really fragments of that exist. Some are motorized. So there's a few that are non-motorized, but we think that structure, the greater kind of Great Western Trail concept, is a really ideal sort of broader idea to plug this Wasatch Mountain Range Trail into. I think with that level of recognition as a centennial trail, it's also identified in Forest Service charters for districts all the way through the state as a priority for implementation. So we feel like there's some good gears in place, but we just need to start pulling it apart and figure out what kind of fuel it needs. And it's a very high-level treatment at this point.
Okay. And then, yeah, I fully agree with everything you're saying. I've been on sections, not in the Wasatch, but I've been on sections of the Great Western Trail where the map says you're on the trail, but there is no trail to be found, where it's just been difficult to find. And so I know that'll be a challenge moving forward.
We think that this effort also will really help with trail maintenance. You know, that's really something that, you know, as you have noticed throughout Utah and on trails, even in fairly populous areas, without maintenance and attention, they'll fall apart. Trails are living things. They need input and care.
And I would also just state that there are two pretty experienced nonprofits sitting at this table, and we are very interested in figuring out a system with guidance from the consultants on how to make this Wasatch Mountain Trail and even maybe, you know, the greater Great Western Trail a priority of the nonprofits. So if there has to be another nonprofit developed that is the eventual management agency for the trail, we're prepared to do that.
And that's the case in Arizona. You know, the Arizona Trail has really been done well. It's totally complete. It's well maintained. There's a lot of buy-in along the way from communities, and we really hope to see that. We think that Utah as a state, 29 counties, and all the municipalities along the way are ready to embrace the concept of a border-to-border trail in the Great Western Trail, and you know, the Wasatch Trail would be the crown jewel of such a Great Western Trail.
Okay, cool. And I agree 100%. Like, I think Utah has the community to make something like this happen, the key organizations and things like that, and that's what it's going to take to make a trail like this.
We've definitely had the conversation about if this really gets some legs and gets going, like, could our organizations really manage it? It may take creating another organization whose sole mission is the health and welfare and connecting of this trail.
And that wouldn't be the first time it's ever happened. Like, the AZT has its own nonprofit, and the Appalachian Trail has its own nonprofit.
CDT,
so
all of that.
yeah, so we're not reinventing the wheel, but right now we've been asked to kind of give this thing some legs.
Yeah, and I know you're just asking for like the money for the assessment. I think that'll be that. I think that's the necessary first step. So like support for that, obviously. My hesitancy then are the next steps, but we have to do an assessment to figure this out, right? Like, I don't want to run into the Bonneville Shoreline Trail has been a great project, but it's also been like now we're deep into difficulties to get that completed. The High Desert Trail was another great idea. It was great, but then like ran into difficulties from the motorized world, right? So it's, we want to make sure that we definitely do the due diligence on this. And I think that's the assessment's the first step to do that due diligence before we can actually figure out we get there.
And another piece of this, something that we're asking as a takeaway from this study, is a path forward with land management agencies. Like, we really want the Forest Service to thoroughly vet this concept, to look at the potential alignments, to look at the use going on existing alignments. We want a path to approvals with this feasibility study. So that's a big piece.
Very cool. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's go on to the next presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura and Sarah.
Thank you for your presentation. Sorry, what was that?
So next we've got Beaver County. I guess, Tammy, I'll be sharing your slides. If you want to just let me know when to change.
So, good afternoon. I brought my timer, so I'm respectful of your time here. So I'm Commissioner Tammy Pearson from Beaver County, and this is my cohort, Commissioner Brandon Yardley. And we would like to propose, is this the thing with the arrows? I have to apologize because this is a old redneck hick that put this together, so you're just going to have to, there's nothing fancy.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you want to present? I've got the slides.
I'm just
up.
reading off
Oh,
mine.
you're just reading? Okay, great.
Yeah, so you're perfect. You're perfect. So Puffer Lake is located 22 miles east of Beaver City. The lake is at 9,672 feet elevation, surrounded by forest property on the Tusher Mountains in Beaver County. The property is easily accessible by the Paiute Trail and State Road State Road 153, which is one of Utah's scenic byways. Beaver County is proposing to purchase the private property there in Beaver County. Next slide. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I'm not much of a reader. I'm rather just a BS artist, so I'd rather just tell you the story. But so the lake property is 589.38 acres, and it has spring and underground water rights included in the purchase. There can be year-round access to fishing on the lake and hunting, and with the purchase there will be improved public access and opportunity, because right now this is private property. They've got no trespassing signs up. The other people that have been interested in purchasing this want to fence it off. They want to block the Paiute Trail. There's been a lot of different issues with this, and so there's also an opportunity to preserve history and restore historic cabins for lakeside access. The lake is surrounded by small fishing cabins that will have to be removed and replaced, but there is plenty of room for new cabins, restrooms, pavilions, and dispersed campsites. So next slide. Okay. The Puffer Lake properties are in desperate need of healthy forest management and are in the plan of the Beaver Ranger District Shared Stewardship Program in the very near future. Beaver County's biggest concern right now is that Forest Service has targeted this for their acquisition using federal funding. And, we were in some pretty detailed conversations with them and actually wrote a support letter because we didn't know, what to do. This property's been sitting for probably 50 years, just waiting for somebody to buy it, and so it's just going downhill. And pretty significant person said, maybe you should apply for the outdoor adventure funding. So we don't need any more federally owned property in Utah or Beaver County. Our county is comprised of 87% public land and 7,500 residents. We've seen a 75% increase in visitation to our other recreational properties under Beaver County management. The Tusher Lake and Minersville Lake campground visitation and revenue significantly increased in the last 3 years. We have been able to capitalize on improvements using outdoor rec grants and have seen a great return on our investment to the infrastructure at both sites. So these are cabins that we've installed there at the Minersville Lake. They're dry cabins. They just have heat and electricity, and they've just been wonderful. It's pretty rustic. People, I don't know, I guess you call it glamping, but I've used them. They've been super fun, and we keep them booked most of the time. Our success story there is investing in our communities and county is good for our souls and theirs. Visitation from residents and non-residents have increased dramatically. Keeping public access and affordability is important to Beaver County. Outdoor recreation has become a vital economic driver to our county and communities, and with our recent loss, I don't know how many of you pay attention to the news in Beaver County, but the last year and a half has been pretty devastating to us with the announcement of Smithfield, who was our largest employer, pulling out. We're going to have, a 10% of what the original employment rate was. And then that doesn't even count all the side side people that are part of that. So we've had quite a few entrepreneurial people, equipment rental, all of these different things, and we're using public lands to do that. And it's been a big boom. They've had huge successes with that. And then we've done the same thing. The middle picture is our paddle boards down at the Minersville Lake, and they're pretty busy. They love it down there. As far as timeline goes, everything depends on acquisition. We've been in constant communication with the owners. They really want to sell. They love the idea of selling to the county because the property is found solely in the county, and the opportunity to keep it public access and but still be able to use it privately. They really like that idea. So as far as timeline goes, we'd like to get that purchase this year. Then of course engineering would be going. The shared stewardship project is the next 3 years as far as their timeline with Forest Service. And then the infrastructure, one thing that I haven't really outlined here is we've been in communication with previously Congressman Stewart and now Congresswoman Malloy on federal funding through the infrastructure, and they can come in and put in power, water, roads, those kind of things, and it's a significant contribution. And then the dispersed campsites, we can do that because they'll be dry campsites. It's not going to take much to improve them. So we could do them this summer. And then the host sites and cabins, the pavilion, the RV sites, those are going to be, different phases going into that. As far as management, Beaver County would like to retain management authority and partnerships. Of course, we love the Outdoor Adventure Commission, the Forest Service with the Beaver Ranger District, UDOT, State Forestry and Fire, DNR, and PLIPCO. And I'm sure there's a whole lot more that can come onto there. And sorry, it stayed lined up to you. Everybody else I emailed it to, it went ski wampus. Okay, so the purchase price we've got, so it's actually listed 6.9 to 7.2, including all the water rights. They possibly willing to negotiate on that. And this is just me ballparking some of the stuff compared to what we've done in on the campground sites or other campground sites, but a project design and engineering, the road, improvement on the road, new cabins, historic cabin, campsites, water development, restrooms, power, pavilion. We have boat docks that we can move up there without investing in new stuff, storage shed, and then some other equipment. So this is just basically a estimate that we've put into that. I maybe underestimated, I'm not really sure, but the county, we have $1 million, a little tiny county of $7,500. We've got $1 million cash put away that we can put into that, but just looking at ballparking these requests, our ask of you guys would be from 6 to 7 million, and then shared stewardship, most of you probably understand what that is, 2 million. Federal infrastructure funding, 1 million, and then possibly the state grants down the road as far as cabins and some of the other things. I tried to go through all the checklist. I'm about out of time. Let's see. The scope of this project is huge at Beaver County and beyond what we can afford on our own. Our cost share would be $1 million. The property would provide year-round public access to anyone in Utah, is easily accessible by UDOT highway and a significant trail system, which specifically the Paiute Trail. The Forest Service campgrounds on the Tusher Mountains have been fully booked, and this will provide additional improved campsites and affordable cabins for rustic camping. The property will be open to the public with low fees on camping and no day fees for hunting, hiking, and access to the lake for fishing or boating. The property sits solely in Beaver County, and we have a good working relationship with the Forest Service on management. We are shovel ready if we can get the funding for the acquisition. We have been coordinating with the Beaver Rangers District on shared stewardship programs, funds to address the forest health component. Sorry, I didn't do any handouts, so. Outdoor adventure, strategic plan alignment. We have built a planning coalition in Beaver County that is led by Beaver County. It includes the Beaver Ranger District, Beaver City, Elk Meadows Service District, Eagle Point Ski Resort, Plipco, DNR, Forestry, and Fire, and we have regular meetings with those guys. And one thing I do want to say, this is one thing that we've struggled with tourism. You know, our local people don't like it very much. You know, we want to stay very rural and keep our home. And so when we were doing our tourism branding a few years ago, you might have seen some of this advertisement. We're the Ramblers, but we changed it to Ramble Responsibly, and to protect our home and protect the places that you're visiting. So that's one of the good things, and part of your checklist with the strategic plan alignment, that, you know, we teach people to travel carefully and respect not only their own safety, but what they leave behind. I think that's all I got. Questions?
How many acres?
Thank you.
Just shy of 600. It's 500. It was in my first slide. 589.38, I think.
Is it locked in by private property now?
No, no. You have pure access to it right off the state road.
Have you explored, I'm going to ask on behalf of Scott, who's not here, but I think state parks would be interested in like co-managing this or managing, I don't know if that's what, or Eagle Point as a private, because I see if development here, like that's great for Eagle Point in this sense of like maybe.
So Eagle Point doesn't have the bandwidth for it right now.
Okay.
State parks, I'm willing to, you know, and no, I have not talked to state parks. If you go back, Patrick, to the slide that has the map on it. Sorry, I skimmed over that pretty quick, but it's the yellow.
Oh, while that's coming up, maybe another question. What's the seasonality, the accessibility, and the road maintenance?
So UDOT's a struggle. It's a struggle to keep the road clear to the ski resort. This is just past the ski resort, but that's part of their contract. They are supposed to keep that clear year round to the end of the oil, which is right at this property.
Which is a big snowmobile trailhead. Yeah.
Huge. And we just purchased, well, we're in the process of purchasing a snowcat for the county, and hopefully that's coming any time. And so the map itself, the zigzaggy line, that big loop that comes over is right there above the ski resort, and then it drops down and cuts right through this property. It doesn't show up very good there, but so the access is great. It's going to be really good in the winter as long as we've got the trails tracked, and be great on the oil road. The one other thing that we've been working really hard, and this is that Shared Stewardship Coalition, is we've struggled nonstop with UDOT keeping those roads maintained. So Forest Service has worked on continuing that oil on up past this property on to another portion, a big meadow on top where they want to do a significant parking for summer and winter, because the trails are crazy with the ATV trails and now the snowmobiles. And if we could get off the side of the mountain and on top where there's more parking, that would open it up to all kinds of access. Okay, well, thank you. Is he talking?
We're not hearing you.
Sorry. Thank you for that presentation. We'll move on to the final presentation. And I think we have Quinn here from Vernal.
Yes, good afternoon.
Hi, go ahead. Yeah.
So I'm sharing the presentation now.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, so thank you. I'm Quinn Bennion, the City Manager of Vernal. We really appreciate your time and service on this commission. I'm joined here today with Leisha, our tourism director, and then some others that are on our Dino Trails committee. We're really excited about our proposal to share a regional recreation project. It's actually in the heart of downtown Vernal, which is a little bit unique but very exciting to show the use and accessibility to our amazing outdoor amenities in the area. This project's been many years in the making, and it has there's a lot to share, plan, schedule, funding, partners, but we have our 10 minutes today, and so I'll just share the portions that are applicable to this committee. As a genesis of the concept, this came from a successful event that we've been holding in Vernal each summer. We flood the library's drainage detention and turn it into a paddle pond for 3 days. And it's amazing how many locals and visitors that come through that have never experienced a paddleboard or canoe or kayak. And this is a safe, accessible place to experience it. And then we hear back from dozens, if not more, that report that they went and bought, their children enjoyed it so much, they went and bought a paddleboard or kayak to use in the area reservoirs. So we want to take this concept and extend it to all the other wonderful amenities that we have through this Launchpad idea. So this is our request is for property acquisition, assistance with that. This is the property. It's 4.22 acres, right in, and currently it's a vacant hotel and a vacant motel. It's right in the heart of downtown, right at, there's Highway 191 up to Flaming Gorge, then Highway 40 with 25,000 cars passing through. This is a rendering of the launch pad and the features over the 4 acres. And this would be, multi-phase. We want to showcase this wonderful and amazing recreational features of our region. This would include sort of teaser experiences, kind of like the pond, and then kiosk of information on how people can experience those out in our great outdoors. The first phase, I won't go through all these elements. You can see them there on the screen. The first phase would include the open green space, water feature, climbing feature, a mountain bike pump track. This is very accessible to youth, people in town, but also the visitors that come through. And our kind of theme for it is come and learn and then go and play as you experience it. Our public engagement for this project was part of our downtown plan in 2020, and it included really robust engagement. We had dozens of entities involved and over 1,000 residents involved in this 9-month process. And the plan's highly supported by the community and our political leadership. And we have significant coordination with all these entities listed here, including the business, and particularly this one with the outfitters, county tourism, county development. It's been a great process. And the plan identified 9 blocks in the downtown that we need to give attention to, both public and private investment. And our plan is not going to sit on the shelf. It hasn't been sitting on the shelf since it's been approved. We are revitalizing block by block. This block that we show or represent today is block what I've numbered number 3, and embraces the recreation tourism aspect of the plan. So a few quick, more detail of some of the features as part of the phase 1. One, we're hopeful to do a climbing feature. This one's replicated after our Moonshine Arch, which is within a short drive of Vernal and a very popular attraction. The next one's a water feature, or this one actually is it'd be the climbing feature would be similar to one in a Moab Public Park, which probably many of you have seen. Another feature would be a water feature. The one that we really liked and gravitated towards be similar to the one in St. George downtown. And it showcases all the water that's available in the area in our state parks, Flaming Gorge, the Green River, and some may know that we are the birthplace of commercial whitewater rafting, and again showcase the water recreational amenities we have in the area. Another one would be another feature would be the mountain bike pump track. This shows the one in Kanab that also has a skate park. We're just looking at the pump track. which would then showcase our local wonderful mountain bike complex, Red Fleet, McCoy Flats, Buckskin Hills, and many others. This is, again, I show this slide again to show the momentum from not only capturing our downtown revitalization, but then move it into a recreation tourism component. And I show the next few slides just to show that we are committed to this plan, and our community supports it, and we are bringing it forward, even though it's a large scale plan for our community. So this is a picture of block 1 as of today, actually, and the work that's going on. This is block number 2 that's right across the street from our subject property. There's what it looked like last year. The city acquired these 2 properties. That's what it looks like today. And here's what it'll look like by next year. We have a contract ready to go to put in public parking and public amenities. And one more shot. There's what it looked like last year. This is right across the street from the subject property. There's what it looks like today with our recently completed Cutthroat Trout mural. And here's what it would look like at the end of this year. This is an illustration of how the recreation Launchpad, the acquisition site is that one labeled subject property. They're the 4 acres. We own the property now across the street, and we anticipate, and then Main Street's the large one just on the upside or the north side. We anticipate likely vacating that city street to provide upwards of 7 acres for this project. Our project timeline, again, this one focuses specifically on the acquisition. So secure funding, first part of this quarter this year. We are working with State Brownfields, partnered with them. They've been great to work with. They've completed phase 1, and they are working on phase 2 right now, environmental. And we have been negotiating with the owner for actually about 1.5 years, he is willing to sell. We just haven't crossed that finish line with the purchase amount. And then, we'd look for a purchase contract mid-year and then acquisition by summer, if the funding's there. The role of the state, what we're requesting of this commission, your consideration for helping and assisting with the acquisition. And then we would hope to bring a future outdoor rec facility application as well. Budget overview, we have completed the planning and public engagement. You can see our partners there, the environmental I just mentioned, and then the orange highlighted portion is what we're looking at for today. Uintah County, through a grant, has secured $2 million. We're putting in $500,000, and we're seeking $1.1 million from the commission, the Outdoor Venture Commission, and that represents about just over 30% of our total project cost. We believe it fits your prioritization checklist well. I identified this with some pluses and how well it fits, 1 through 3. We do believe, again, significant scope, benefit to our local community. Address overcrowding is a unique one. We actually do have some capacity that we are inviting and want people to come to Vernal and recreate. We don't want to be overran, but we do have capacity. And so our addressing is letting people know we are here and what's available so that they may come from other locations that are overcrowded. And then underserved, again, very accessible, easy to find, cross-jurisdictional, shovel-ready for the acquisition. And then we feel like it does meet the strategic plan that you're looking at for projects. Benefits, improve our tourism and recreation experience, responsible timeline and planning, definite heavy economic impacts to increase our outdoor recreation use and help and just that momentum that's built with our downtown revitalization. And we're here for questions and comments.
Okay, any questions on the commission? Okay, if there's none, then thank you very much for the presentation.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so now we come to the exciting portion of our meeting to discuss prioritization. And I don't know if there's specific discussion that we want to have around these projects, or I know that we presented the scoring sheets. I know some people have been able to fill those out. Not everyone on the commission has fully filled out those scoring sheets, but I'll open it up for discussion. Or Patrick, if you've got some comments on the scoring, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Representative Stenquist. So I guess to start, so the scoring sheets that I had sent out, I mean, those I tried to make it known, those aren't necessarily official. They were just to kind of help you all, just to kind of help steer your discussion. It wasn't my intention to kind of share those with the public, more just so you can have your own notes as we do have this discussion. So if in those who did do the scoring, as you're going through, and you can identify, like, these ones were the ones that really stood out to me, kind of bring those up. And then I thought, just through discussion, through motions, we can kind of work on some, funding priorities for this. I also have a live scoring sheet I can share at any point if people are curious on how much funding is being allocated, like where it's being distributed across the state. And so that was pretty much it. I think there have been a few comments about a few folk requesting a 5-minute break for bathroom and snacks as well. I don't know how you feel about that, Chair.
Perfectly reasonable request to take a short break. It's been a long meeting already, so let's take a break and come back in about 10 minutes.
Can I ask one question before we break? And maybe you need to.
You bet.
And Representative Stenquist, maybe you need to think about this while on the break. But we talked about this last meeting, but we have 19 million from the last session that was appropriated, and then we also have suggestions for this upcoming session. So maybe when we come back, let's be clear on which funds we are appropriating projects to, because potentially, we're catching up from the appropriation last year to try to figure out how that money is going to be spent, what's left there, plus whatever suggestions we want to make to be run in a bill or in an appropriation this coming session. So don't need an answer right now. Let's discuss that when we get back from our break, but just to think about.
Okay.
So do we want to do a 5-minute break, 10-minute break?
Yeah, 10-minute break.
Okay, so we will meet back here at 4:11.
10 minutes after the hour? Yeah. Okay, welcome back to commission members. This next portion, I guess, is the part we've all been waiting for. And I think we're gonna maybe do our best with this. Hopefully we can keep it streamlined and have an opportunity to discuss this. So and hopefully in future years, this is our first time really going through this process. In future years, I really hope that we wouldn't want to wait until the week before the session to come before to do this, and that we wouldn't feel so rushed, because it does feel a little bit rushed at this point because we're up against a deadline. And so my thinking with this is that we can have kind of Patrick, if you would display a kind of a list of projects so that we can all have a visual of the prioritization list. And then we can entertain, discussion. So go ahead.
The commission will see themselves.
Okay, so if we, so let's just talk about how we want to prioritize these things. Some of the, and I don't know, we can entertain motions one by one, discussions, to vote to put things on the priority list. I'll take a little bit of privilege as the chair too, to kind of suggest that some of these items that are, kind of, smaller dollar amount asks, I think are maybe a little bit easier. If there's something that clearly you feel like, hey, that's a good project, and it's not a lot of money.
Pin the chair. So
What's that?
I don't think that was intentional. I think it's an open mic from the back room.
Oh, okay. If someone wants to propose, especially something that's not taking a large, not a large funding request, those are maybe a little bit easier to include in the list. And then other proposals or motions for larger dollar amount proposals, we can then also discuss those as well.
Mr. Chair, any thoughts on the question that was posed before the break on what is the target amount we're actually looking at here?
I think that we should perhaps look at, we can divide this into two tranches, one for I guess the current fiscal year, and one for the upcoming fiscal year. And I don't know that, we can suggest, given that these are recommendations, we could recommend that we use the full funding amount. So for example, in the current fiscal year, if we wanted to recommend, if it's roughly $19 million, if we wanted to recommend the full amount, we could do that. Although we certainly don't need to do that. If we wanted to keep some funds in reserve from the current fiscal year, even if that means that those funds could potentially be available for future fiscal years, that's perfectly all right as well. So I'm not going to necessarily say that, well, this is, a hard amount that, we're only allowed to do up to, a portion of the full amount. I guess really it's, it's the full amount that would be the maximum. And but if the commission doesn't want to allocate the full amount, that's fine as well.
Chair, can I recommend that we hold some value in contingency solely because these are preliminary cost estimates, and to get some of these projects to the finish line with the inflation that we've seen, and whether that be in consultant and or construction dollars, I think overruns at these early stages of projects are probably likely, I would say. And to make sure we can get them to the finish line, I think we should probably hold some portion available for additional funding with projects.
You know, that's a really good point, Josh. I will point out though that we're not really funding the project. This is just a grant amount. And so contingency or cost overruns, I think that's kind of something that the receiving party needs to worry about. And if they have those cost overruns, then they would then need to figure out how to cover those themselves. And so how much of a grant allocation are we providing them would be the question.
And I think that's really becomes important, especially in right-of-way acquisitions where there are unknown price tags even more so.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'm wondering if there's a way, and maybe staff already knows this, is there a way for us to know on some of these federal projects, most of them are the bigger price tags, and is there a way for us to know whether the matching funds that they've suggested are available have been appropriated, or are those in a budget request somewhere? Are they on a dream list somewhere? Because if the funding for those haven't been appropriated by the federal government yet, the odds of that happening, it couldn't happen before September when the new fiscal year begins for the federal government, but they may not ever get funded, and I'm not sure if we want to obligate our funds to projects that don't yet have the federal match that they need.
Jeff, I was sure to, when I was reviewing them, I had that exact same question. So, you know, the ones that, I don't know if this is accurate, but the ones that definitely ranked higher in my eyes were the ones that had mentioned they'd either started work using GAOA money. And so, like, you know, there was a lot of those, like, Fish Lake projects and whatever that were like, let's finish it. We need to get it over the finish line. Those rose in priority to me as opposed to the ones that are like, we're starting a new project and we do have potentially some allocated, right? Like that was a red flag in ways. So I think at least starting to get this list and seeing what amount we come to, like the prioritization of those ones that were maybe go-up projects that they're just asking for money to complete or finish a phase, like those. Now you're asking me right now, but yeah.
Kents Lake, Duck Creek, Big Flat,
Navajo
Lake, Spruces.
Yeah.
Those were on that category where, we're not, there's no contingency that the GAO funds are already there and they are just looking to cross the finish line due to overruns. This is basically an ask for this fund to cover the overruns.
Right. So I don't know if that answers your question, Jeff, but I think it's kind of case by case basis, and part of the presentation that they provided, I believe.
And I noticed on the sheet it says 3.1 million for Kents Lake, but on the PowerPoint it said 500,000. Do we know if that was just a typo or if that number has changed?
Yeah, it looks like that was a typo. The total project cost is that 3.1 million.
So the funding request was 500,000 though, correct? Thank you.
Correct.
Metric that would be useful to me, I don't think we've captured, is what the local, the collective contribution that the requestee is bringing to the table and how that fits with what they're asking from us. Because there were a couple where, the Beaver County, where they wanted $7 million and they had a $1 million contribution, and then contrasting that with others where there was a lot more of a contribution they were bringing to the table. How do we weigh all of that?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. For example, the Sherman Hills one, there's a 75% match ratio.
Yeah.
So good to keep in mind, I think. I kind of sorted all of these and did a little quick math on the match ratio. We got everything from 93% to 0, but I think that's just one factor. For example, the Wasatch Trails feasibility study, 0 match, but very low cost. So there's kind of a fine line there.
Yeah.
There was a Forest Service project. I can't remember which one it was that basically was they were asking to start the project, right? So there's like 2 red flags there. There was no match from the Forest Service. There was also no indication that there would be any funding requests going to DC or from the federal offices, right?
The Kent's Lake one, I think. I think that's Kent's Lake, 3.1 million. Applicant cash match of 0 is what it says.
Yeah, and some of these, a lot of it's quite subjective. We may feel like they might have some matching funds, but really, is there a need for the state to provide additional funds, or is it something that we feel like the entity should be able to cover their costs without state funds available? So, that's part of the question. And the appropriateness of the request, it all comes down to how each of the commission members feels about it, and if you want to advocate for or against a particular project being included or moved up on the priority list, then feel free to speak up on that. Do we have any? And then also I will point out that on some of these, we may feel like maybe we don't feel that we can contribute the full amount of the funding request, but maybe we can provide a portion of it, and then that they could then have that portion that, they might have to come back, for a little bit over multiple years to get where they're going. So that might be an option. I am thinking specifically, for example, like the one in Beaver County. Maybe we don't feel like we could allocate the full 7 million, but maybe we could do a portion this year, and with the idea that maybe we come back in future years and add a little bit more to help them over time get to the full amount. That's one question that I don't know if we know, how long they feel like they can wait, and if in the future years that money falls through, then certainly we would want to have any money back to the state if they weren't able to use it over a certain period of time. I don't know if we put rules in place about that, saying, after a certain amount of time, then we want that money back. But other projects may not have the luxury of waiting a few years and getting years over multiple years, getting funding over multiple years.
I have a question on that. Isn't there some level of commitment or more certainty before we actually disperse funds? Anyone?
I would say yes.
We're not just going to give out the money.
That's a question.
You're prioritized, but here's the next
step.
steps.
It's awarded, basically.
Yeah.
It's secured. Some of it would be based on reimbursement. These land acquisitions would obviously operate a little bit differently, but it's more of a commitment than it is just, yes, here's $2 million.
Yeah. And another thought I had is on the, I took into consideration the percentage of contribution in comparison to the total project cost in my ROI score. But there's a big difference when you're looking at an ask from a 5th or 6th class county versus a 2nd or 3rd class county, even in the resources that are
or a
available
nonprofit.
to them. So yeah, or a nonprofit.
Yeah.
I know in the past, I was thinking that same thing that Brandy was thinking, right? Like, I know in the past, like with UORG grants and all of that, right? We've taken that highly into consideration for the split between rural and urban projects. And I don't know if that's, again, throwing another wrench in the system. I don't know if that's something we want to consider as a commission when we are thinking about how we split out the allocation of these, or at least our recommendation for allocation of these. But, yeah.
Or potentially even regional, so we make sure that we've got reach across the state.
At least avoid concentrating it all into
Yes.
one place or one use.
Yes.
Into Jeff's district. That's what we want to avoid. Yeah.
Speaking of Jeff's district, may I make a motion? I would make a motion that we put as our first project the Wasatch Trail feasibility study on the list.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to include the Wasatch Trail feasibility study. Any discussion on that motion?
I absolutely support that, and that was also my first priority because I think it's important to think of long-range projects and short-range projects.
Jason, can you give us your argument for it?
I think it's something that's missing from Utah. The popularity of through hiking is just soaring. Pacific Crest Trail, Great Divide Trail, or Continental Divide Trail, Appalachian Trail. That activity is extremely popular. I think it also has the potential to put a lot of tourism dollars on the ground in some areas where they typically aren't.
It also seems that they don't really have another source of funding for this, right? I don't know where else they would go to get funding, but who else is going to fund this if we don't?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, there's probably very, very few places other than this that we. Yeah.
I support that.
All right. So I'll just ask for voice vote. All in favor of that motion to include that project, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, let's put that one on the list.
I'd also like to make a motion. We probably could have combined these two, but just again, I'll make a motion
Sure.
here to keep it clean. I make a motion to also fund the Zion Regional Collaborative for the Guacamole Trail, which was for $182,000. If I can get a second, then I'll
second that.
Okay, thank you. So for discussion there, it's kind of the same thing we were just talking about, like there's no other place to get funding for NEPA. And here was my notes on this that I thought was fascinating. I think this is a great example of I don't want to say a social trail, but a trail that is getting heavily used, that isn't an authorized trail or may be called an illegal trail. And this is a step that they're taking to instead close it down, to reinforce it, do the right thing to make it useful, because the community already loves it and is using it. And what we find oftentimes with these trails that are maybe unauthorized, a lot of times the easiest step, either by the Forest Service or BLM or whatever, is just to close it. And then it becomes a bigger issue to manage. So at this point, I think they're being proactive in the solution to say, let's make it an actual trail, let's reinforce it, let's make it useful because it is a resource to the community that's already being used and already known out there. And again, that NEPA, there isn't a funding source to get that NEPA and design done efficiently. Or, that's a lot harder to come by than the construction dollars and grants to make this an actual trail.
All right. Are there any comments against that?
Not necessarily against it, just a question on the statutory limitations on the funding. Planning isn't specifically mentioned as a use. Is there any need to amend the statute?
Where'd the attorney go?
Where's Stroud?
I mean, maybe I can give a little comment. I've been working with our Assistant Attorney General rep, and we do have language. I believe you may be in context about this, Representative Stenquist, just to clean up some of the language in the Outdoor Adventure Restricted Fund, because right now it's pretty exclusive of all things except for a list, but we're opening up for these like planning and NEPA and these type of things.
Thanks, Patrick.
But I guess, and so
I think.
Oh, go ahead, Representative.
I was going to say, I would say it falls within the intent of the bill. I don't know if the language fully reflects that and if there's ambiguity, I'm happy to make some efforts to change that, but I'm comfortable with it. Although, as a side note, it looks like you've highlighted in red there, the request from the Utah Avalanche Center is something that you feel like is really not eligible for this funding.
Yeah, that's one, once again, in conversations with Shane, that he couldn't find a way that we could justify it as infrastructure, and I know, or for outdoor recreation. I think within the code in the Outdoor Recreation Initiative, House Bill 224, that has a pretty inclusive definition of recreation and the needs. However, the funding source for all of this is going to be the Outdoor Adventure Fund, and that's the one that does have that more restrictive language. So if we are going to be pulling funding from that, that's going to be the code that we need to clean up. But with that one, with the Avalanche Center's application in particular, because it is infrastructure, but it's, like we use a trail that's infrastructure for a lot of us. However, this would be kind of infrastructure that they're using. Certainly many people would benefit from having, the avalanche forecasting, but just the tie wasn't there. Shane felt, and so.
Chairman.
Okay, so since this one wasn't in red, then I'm assuming we're going to assume that it is eligible.
Yeah, assuming that we do get that language cleanup in this next session. So some of these, we would need to wait.
Chairman Stanquist.
I think I do have that bill file. Go ahead.
Sorry, before we leave the discussion about the Avalanche Center funding, I'm wondering if maybe Josh could tell us, does UDOT fund the Avalanche Center, or where do they draw funds for avalanche safety from the state, or do they?
That's through our division.
It's through your division?
Yeah.
So is there another mechanism to fund that request?
Say again?
Is there another mechanism that where they could get funding for this request?
I met with them a couple months ago. I know they were working on an appropriation.
They are?
They do pull.
Yeah.
They do pull from us, or from DOR, and from a little bit from UDOT.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just see that as a critical need, but if there's another mechanism to fund it, since it doesn't fit into the definition of our fund, then maybe we let that one go.
Well, and I think that, like right now, like for example, UDOT contracts with them to provide services. So that's different than like an appropriation. It's really that they're contracting with UDOT.
Yeah.
For their services.
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion to fund all of the BLM projects at the requested amounts. And my thinking is that they're all.
Vicki, before we make another motion, we still have that motion on the guacamole trail. So if there's no further discussion on that, let's go ahead and take a vote on that motion. All in favor of including that request from Zion Regional Collaborative, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. So let's include that on the list. And so, okay, go ahead, Vicki. And by all means, feel free to include multiple projects in your motion if you feel that's appropriate and confident enough that we can approve all of them at once. That is sufficient. But we'll see if commission supports a bulk motion.
Okay, so bulk motion for the BLM projects. They're geographically diverse. They're all well thought through. They're almost to completion, and they address critical issues ranging from overcrowding to protecting resources.
I'll second and open discussion.
So we have a motion and a second on those. Looking at just a quick glance for myself, most of them are fairly modest dollar amounts, except for the
Moab field off.
Maybe the river pathway is kind of large. What's the total amount?
It looks like
of those
6.7 million. I'm looking at all of them.
I think that's about.
Did you say 6.7?
That's what it looks like to me if I'm looking at all the ones that say BLM. That's including, so that's House on Fire, McCoy Flats, Iron County Mountain Bike Trails, Calf Creek, and Colorado River Pathway.
So I do want everybody to recognize that the Colorado River Pathway is available for Utah Trail Network funding. We do not have a prioritized list at this point, so I can't even say if it's on the list, other than it was proposed to be part of the Utah Trail Network. I just want everybody to be aware of that.
Thank you. Josh read my mind, because in discussion, that was in my notes to this, right? The Colorado River project, I thought was a very viable option for Josh's program, I guess I shouldn't call it Josh's program, but the UDOT program. And so I think those are my concerns in this as far as discussion goes. That one project, what could we do? I'm fine if we support some of it, but is there other options through UDOT to look at supporting that large amount? My second concern with these projects was the Cedar City field office. And I know I told you how much I love these trails when we heard these presentations, but also I thought the match was poor from the city and the county, which is really benefiting from this trail system. And so that was a bit of a warning flag to me. I think, in that case, even though it's not a crazy high amount, the trails were really expensive. I think it was like $50,000 a mile or something. Mm-hmm. Like pretty high cost for a trail. But also, I was hoping that Cedar City would come in a little bit more of this, since they really are benefiting from that. So those are my only two concerns with the BLM projects. The rest, I agree with Vicky, and the diversity of these, the different types of recreation, the different parts of the state, the multiple counties that they represent as well was incredible. And I think any help we can give the BLM is good help in a lot of cases around this state for recreation. So
does the SR9 and US 89 from Kane County, that's also NEPA, right? So that would fall under the question of expanding our authority to include NEPA?
Yeah, I think at least one of them was. And also, again, another ideal candidate for the UDOT program, potentially. I don't know about the NEPA side of things, but the actual construction of things, that'd be a great candidate.
I'll chime in to add that we have materials from Stephanie Tomlin that showcased how those projects have ranked prior, particularly the Moab section of trail, and how it's ranked actually fairly low through their prioritization model. Just for context, I'm happy to forward that to anyone if you want to review those materials.
Do we know?
Okay, so you're saying that the Moab paved trails is ranked low for the active transportation fund?
And please, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but in talking to Stephanie, she relayed that the project ranked low in their prioritization model last year. I don't know how much that will change this year.
So that's exactly true, Carly, and we haven't prioritized projects this year. We are using the same prioritization model. So it really becomes what subset of projects is being ranked, but that's a true statement that in previous funding allocations, it didn't rank particularly high because it is really expensive per mile, but it's also the reason that nobody's built it because it's the last section that's really hard to do.
And I'll also add too that they're making their decisions on the Utah Trails Network in the next, I think, 2 weeks at the UDOT commission meeting. And so we're in talks with their staff, with Stephanie, to figure out how we can align these processes moving forward so that we don't have this question mark of, okay, well, will this be funded through the UTN or will this be coming out of the OAC, or how do we work together with these two programs? So since they're both kind of new.
Can we split it?
Yeah, we'll be able to, I think, handle that a little bit more effectively next cycle. But right now, we're just aware of the kind of odd timing. So
it'll be the February Transportation Commission is when the list will be ready. So a little more than 2 weeks, but not horribly long.
Well, I say we
wonder if-
wait and, yeah.
So I wonder if we were to allocate a portion of the money, that maybe that would lower the cost per mile and might improve their scoring and their criteria, if that's what they're using, perhaps. I think that's a really good project. I fully support it, but I also would like to see that coming out of the active transportation network funding. But if that's not going to happen, that would, I think we'd miss an opportunity.
We make like a contingent approval of the project if they don't get the funding? Or maybe a match if we did half and could fund the other half the other way?
I think we could certainly maybe include that and have that as a footnote in our recommendations to the legislature. And then maybe that could be, since the legislature is going to look at that, maybe we could, juggle that in the appropriation process. I don't know.
So, Chairman, I kind of like Krista's idea that we make it a match, contingent upon matching funding from active trails or active transportation. But I'm wondering, how do we structurally, what are our rules of engagement for that? Do we make a list with contingency projects that if that doesn't go through, then projects on the B list get funded? Is that the right process?
Unfortunately, we're making up the rules as we go along. So if we want to do it that way, I would entertain a substitute or a motion amendment.
Well, maybe, I don't know.
I'll make a substitute motion. Substitute motion is that we approve all of the BLM projects except for the Colorado River Pathway and consider it next.
Okay, Can I make a substitute to the substitute? With the addition of, I think it's very reasonable to go back to Iron County and say, we'd like you to increase your contribution. Right. And
so I looked that up. An increase would be any contribution. So right now what it is, it's a $730,000 project. They're requesting $500,000. The BLM has invested $270 already. And that's the only match here. So there is no match from Cedar City yet. So again, this is another one of those this discussion where it could be, all right, we'll give you $250,000, as an example or something like that. And the BLM's like, well, great, what do we do with that? And then we give the heads up to Cedar City that says the BLM's sitting on a bunch of money. You guys can apply for a UORG grant to, I don't know, right? Like there's strategies there that we can help with to help Cedar City to get there. I don't know if that makes a difference because it's all money coming from different pots from the Division of Outdoor Rec, but.
Well, I think any of these could be looked at through that lens. You could look at the Pineview ones and say, well, why isn't Huntsville or Weber County? And you could look at the Moab one and say, why isn't Moab? I mean, I don't know.
True.
And we could simply approve the amount that we're comfortable with. Maybe it's $250,000, and then send them a message saying, well, we didn't allocate the full 500. We're going to give you 250, and we expect you to go back and find the 250 from somewhere else, like Iron County or Cedar City.
And then Cedar City can figure out how they get that, whether that's a mix of their budget and a grant or something like that, right?
Right.
I think that's
that gets
cleaner.
complex for them.
Yeah.
I withdraw my substitute.
Okay, so you just withdrew your substitute, so I was just going to withdraw mine. So what's easiest at this point? I mean, I think a lot of this involves a lot of staff follow. And so maybe that's something we need to sort is, that seems reasonable to me, but I'm not the person staffing it in this case. So what seems reasonable to you in terms of us giving?
I I don't want to get too into the weeds of putting contingencies and conditions on this. I think there may be a case for it here and there, but yeah, I think
I hear you, yeah.
get into it this early would be a little red flag for me.
Mr. Chair, I have a question, a comment. When we look at these applicants and we look at that one, the Iron County Mountain Bike, they're asking for 500,000, and the applicant does have 270,000 match. We can start looking for more matches all the way around, but are we going to do that on every project? Because if you go down to the BLM in Garfield County, there's no way Garfield County can come up with any kind of a match.
That goes back to the point.
But the applicant has a match.
Yeah, that goes back to my point on the ROI, that some communities have additional funds available where others do not. I am concerned about just doing a blanket BLM appropriation. I think it's a little bit concerning to some of our other applicants who may feel like, at least let's talk about each project specifically and the merits of each project instead of just a blanket that would take a significant chunk of the money that we have available. I think that I don't love the message that we're sending to other applicants to do a broad, we're just going to approve BLM projects.
Well, I don't think that's really I mean, you could make a motion to approve 3 projects that are all from different agencies. It's just really the efficiency of the approval of the motions and discussion at this point. And if you're not comfortable with even one of the projects or a portion of it, you can either make a motion to remove that project out for a separate discussion, or we can, vote no. So, it sounds like, is anybody comfortable making a motion, kind of maybe wrap up this discussion?
Sure.
Sounds like they've been.
I'll give it a shot. And I'll keep it simple, and we can bring in the projects we're questioning. But I make a motion that we fund hold on, I got to read these right. That we fund the House on Fire project with the BLM, the McCoy Flats new campground, and the Calf Creek recreation site improvements.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve those 3 projects. Any further discussion on that motion? All right, seeing none, take a voice vote. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, those 3 projects are approved. All right, further motions.
How much have what are we totaling so far now? I mean, I know we're not close, but what did that actually do?
Probably about 1.5.
Well, isn't the Calf Creek like 3.3? It's a pretty big project. Period. It's $3.30. Funded.
Okay. Typo.
I'll match that right now.
Okay.
It's going to go fast, huh? Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we fund the request from Beaver County at $3.5 million and encourage them to seek a direct appropriation from the state or otherwise find some funding. But the reason that I'm sympathetic to their challenge, because they have such a small population and they have they're not like Grand County. They're not like Moab. They don't have the ability to fund big projects, and they don't have economic resources otherwise, and their tourism is truly limited. And this seems to be something that could benefit not only them, but that whole Paiute Trail system benefits from it. Not to mention, the forest health that benefits from better management, things like that. So it's a huge number that they're asking for. But I think that if we funded part of it, they could go try to get a direct appropriation from the state or find other ways to fund the rest of it. But again, I don't know how you make that half funding contingent on the rest of their funding coming through and what that looks like.
I'd second that motion. I agree. It's a big ask, but a huge need for Beaver County.
I honestly think there's a huge opportunity here now that Scott's back in the room for Scott to figure out how to make this work, whether it's a direct appropriation from the state or maybe it's a state park funded to take over management of this as part of the agreement with that. I think there's a huge opportunity to make that Puffer Lake a really cool destination for Beaver County.
Technical advisor.
So Pitt, are you speaking in favor of the motion?
Yeah, for the $3.5 million, the motion. Yeah, I speak in favor of that.
So you turned me off? Really? Just kidding. Sorry.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. More discussion on the motion.
This is Chase here, and maybe Tara can clarify. We have that OHV land acquisition grant up to $1 million. I don't know if that can supplement that with the Paiute Trail System and trailhead opportunities, so close for both snowmobile as well as the dirt side of OHV, because in our agency also provides another 30 grand for plowing in addition with UDOT up there with the contract. So that's what we provide for that. Is that something that could also supplement that?
Chair, I'd like to just speak in support of it as well. I appreciate Pitt and his pitch for state parks. It would be excellent to have a property or a facility within Beaver County for state parks. We don't currently have a state park in Beaver County.
I'll also speak in favor of Beaver County's ability to make this work. They've demonstrated through the Minersville project and others that they have the ability to make something like this actually pretty successful.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, I'll take a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, funding $3.5 million.
And if I can just interject real quick, I'm very happy we have Shane here. He can help kind of explain just the code change that we need to do really quick and then give you like more reasoning for the Avalanche Center application.
Sure. So let me just preface by saying the Avalanche project sounds like a fantastic project that would benefit the residents of the state and visitors, and it would actually, I think, increase access to both the backcountry and even sounds like maybe some of the front country or near country, I should say. But I talked with Patrick about this, and there are some limitations under the section of the code that pertains to the Outdoor Recreation Initiative. The initiative currently can fund outdoor recreation infrastructure, and that definition is rather limited under the code currently. So right now, outdoor recreation infrastructure is defined as a trail or trailhead infrastructure like signage and trail crossings, campgrounds and day use sites, water recreation infrastructure, and outdoor recreation facilities that are accessible to visitors with disabilities. So when we're talking about types of projects that can be funded with recreation initiative money, it's those types of actual on-the-ground infrastructure that are accessible to visitors. This is definitely something that would benefit visitors to outdoor recreation sites and would increase the ability of folks to access that infrastructure, but under a strict reading of the code, it's probably not subject to funding by the Outdoor Recreation Initiative as it's currently drafted. Now that calls into question maybe, I think Patrick said a code change might be necessary to kind of increase the types of projects for which this funding could be used, to allow it to be used for these types of projects that increase the ability of people to access these outdoor recreation facilities, even if the project itself is not classified as outdoor recreation infrastructure. Just to make clear, there is a pending piece of legislation this session. It's House Bill 90 that's actually sponsored by Representative Stenquist. And it does broaden the definition of outdoor recreation infrastructure to include other types of on-the-ground infrastructure, but it probably still would not be broad enough to capture this particular project. So, and additionally, to the extent the commission wanted to use this type of money for specific purposes pertaining to, for example, NEPA planning, it would probably be better to have that as an explicit allowance under the code. Currently, the code doesn't seem to anticipate necessarily, at least, that these monies might be used for things like planning expenses. I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission might have as to that.
Okay, I think that probably provides good clarity. So thanks for that. And we can talk more in the future about whether or not we want to, include that in the statute. Do we have additional motions?
I would make a motion to include the experiential corridor for the Zion National Park Discovery Center. This would address a huge need, the overcrowding in Zion. It's opens up a new area. There's a large number of stakeholders who have already put a lot of time and planning and money committed to this, and I think it's a really well-planned project that could really, really change that part of the state.
Second. I was just getting ready to make that motion.
And I, in discussion, I fully support that. This is, the state's all in on this and has been for years. So, we should continue the investment in that.
That was one of my highest scores, so I agree with that.
So my concern with that, I'll just speak about my views. To me, it seems like, yeah, it's an experiential trail, landscaping, but to me, it doesn't really seem like a recreation trail per se. It's mostly just enhancing that visitor center, and so I didn't consider that very highly, just because it just seemed like it wasn't traditional outdoor recreation necessarily.
I was just reviewing the budget, and I understand your point, and I think that goes to perhaps some discussion, because I had questions along the same lines about the Vernal proposal.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way, that one's, I mean, it seems like a fantastic project, but it's more of a city park. And that's not really in my mind the vision of what these funds should go towards. And the visitor center I think is great, that East Zion, but it's not really building recreation trails. It's just an experiential thing that's like a nature walking trail around the visitor center that enhances the visitor center itself, but I just don't know that that's really the best use of this funding.
I understand what you're saying, and I thought about that myself, because they're doing so much on trail build out that in an ideal scenario, you might have said to the Zion Forever group, you should apply for the trail portion of what you need. The reason I came to feel comfortable with this one is that it is part of the fabric of a comprehensive, expanded recreation network that is essential to alleviating overcrowding and providing a high-quality recreation experience.
Does anyone know, are there other funding sources available for that? Are there GOED grants or other sources that they could seek funding for that, since it's part of the expanded visitor center experience?
Well, GOED moved Office of Outdoor Recreation over here, and we have now the Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant, but we don't have $5 million to give. Now, what could
Tara, can we get you to turn on a mic, please?
Sorry. I was just going to say that since GOEO moved our office was taken over there with the grant, which is the Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant that you're referring to. The most that we can provide at this point for any one grant is $750,000. The Iron County mountain bike trails would be a perfect opportunity for them to come to, and apply for the UARC grant. This one with $5 million ask is a little too rich for that particular grant program.
Thanks, that's what I was wondering.
And could I also add that just on the trail side of things with the experiential, and this is just opinion, that we've got a lot of city folk, to them, that's, their first experience with the trail. And, kind of call it trail light, L-I-T-E, but perhaps that.
Right. There's no further discussion on the motion. I'll go ahead and take a voice vote.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Just want to make sure.
Nay.
Opposed? I'll vote no.
No.
I voted no.
I can't see the room, so if we can take a roll call vote, just so we can make sure we get the numbers right.
You want me to conduct that?
Yeah, if you could.
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Michelle? Aye. Jerry? Aye. Jeff?
Aye.
Vicky?
Aye.
Scott? Aye. I'll vote aye. Pitt?
Aye.
Brandy?
Nay.
Mr. Chair?
No.
2 no votes.
Wait, we got Josh and.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, I
passes.
apologize. Yeah, Josh, your vote.
Nay.
And Krista?
Nay.
All right, so 4 no votes.
Okay. Okay, so what was the vote tally?
4 no's and 1, 2,
5 yeses.
5 yes. Or 6 yes.
Okay, so 5-4. Okay. So it passes on a 5-4 vote.
6-4.
6-4, okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the Puffer Lake property acquisition. Sorry, not Puffer Lake, Sherman Hills.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Chairman.
For the discussion. I'll speak to the motion. I think that there's some urgency around that project, and it's an area that needs, I think it's some land worth preserving for recreation purposes.
Mr. Chairman, discussion to that. This is Jeff Hartley, and I actually will vote in opposition to that. I wonder why they couldn't, through the rezoning process that they'll have to go through with the city, get the trail access that they'll need. They could, that's things, that with a wildlife corridor would also have to be negotiated. And I also don't see the land mass itself, the bulk of land they're talking about, as benefiting recreation. These 2 trails exist, but the bulk of that land isn't dedicated to recreation. It's just going to be preserved as open space. And while that has value, I don't know who's going to maintain it and create something that's recreation related. So I think that they could otherwise preserve the trail network or get the trails established, the trailhead access established through negotiations with the landowners. And it's just a very expensive way to do it, I think. So that's my piece.
That's how I felt. I thought it was a conservation easement might be better suited for what they're trying to accomplish. It seemed like a significant price tag for what really is conservation, at least immediately.
And keeping in mind that the ask from this body is $2 million, which is small.
In comparison, yeah.
Any further discussion?
I would just say too, I don't know all of the zoning, all of the issues there, but I don't know how much they could negotiate that. Like, I don't know what kind of leverage they would have with the city. If it's an entitlement and they have that zoning and they can get the water, I'll just throw that out there. Not knowing all of the circumstances, I'm not sure how much leverage they really would have with the city there.
Right.
I think the other thing that bears in my mind is that it's a small price tag for this account to pay in order to secure access onto the adjacent public lands. The land itself may not be, high value in terms of outdoor recreation as it is now. We don't know the future of that, but the fact that it would allow people to access the adjacent lands is foremost in my mind.
I think I support it. Kate made a very good point that we don't have any formal commitments from the city or the Cache County group, and I think this is one that I'd like to have ask staff to follow on to get those commitments. So my vote would be contingent on that.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment too. I think that if I was doing this project, the first thing I would have done is I would have taken a survey of my community to see how many of them wanted it kept in open spaces rather than have it developed. I'd like to have them done that as well.
Okay. So I think we'll go ahead and take a roll call vote on this one. Someone could conduct that.
Let me get my pen out so that I can keep notes this time. All right, roll call vote. Michelle.
First question, are we following Vicky's motion to have it be contingent on, what exactly was it?
Okay, so.
Certifications from
to clarify the motion, yeah, go ahead. So just to follow our maybe some procedures here, Vicky was saying that she would like to have her vote contingent. Vicky, I don't know how you can make your vote contingent. It's either going to be a yes or a no.
Yeah.
Unless you want to make a motion.
Yeah, right.
Unless you want to make a motion to, or a substitute motion that it's contingent on, and certainly, we can say that they're awarded this, but if they don't go through with it, I think our staff would hold on, wouldn't actually write them a check until they had closed the deal, or in order to close the deal. So it would be contingent on them closing the deal, regardless. I think that's kind of a given. But did you want to?
Yeah, I will leave it at that. I'm going to assume that it doesn't happen unless they, that the local commitments are embodied in all of this. And so I don't need to change my motion.
Okay.
I'm not asking to change the motion. Yeah.
Okay.
Back to me. Aye.
No.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
No, and if I could just say, Mr. Chairman, a couple of thoughts is there's a sense of urgency based on the possibility that water is allocated, but the landowner is trying to recover money based on the possibility of the city releasing additional water. And so I think we're paying a price tag based on a sense of urgency that's been created that may or may not be accurate. Because if there's no water, it's undevelopable land. Nothing's going to happen. I would like to see if there's maybe a possibility, because I am interested in protecting access to the trails, and I think Pitt made a comment about even Box Elder County and how they're impacted by this. So if there were a smaller amount of land that maybe could be purchased to provide access to that trail, I would be interested in knowing if that's maybe something that we could go back and visit with them about.
Okay, Josh?
Nay.
Krista,
No.
Chair Stenquist.
I'll vote yes, since I made the motion.
Okay. 6 yes votes, 5 no votes.
It's a close one. Okay, 6-5, that passes. Further, the motion, what are you up to on our totals again? I don't know if I saw that. Oh, here we go. 15,000. Okay, 50 million. Sorry, we're getting up there.
I'm interested in everybody's thoughts on the shooting range. I think it's a really interesting concept. It differs from the other projects and might serve as a gateway for the younger generation to, both explore the shooting range and just get into the greater outdoors. But I have mixed emotions on it also.
Right.
So that's why I'm not making a motion. I was just.
Okay.
Here's my thought on it, if I can. I think it's a great project. I think there's some really good merits. There is a need there for sure. I just don't know if it's ripe yet in terms of the land acquisition and how that's going to take place. And it's going to be there, as a possibility for us to consider in the future, possibly.
I think there's absolutely a need. I think the amount of money that they're asking for in comparison to the investment is that's a really good deal. I ranked it very high on the ROI. I just wondered if there wasn't another funding source that might be better suited. I don't know if they're providing a number of employees where maybe based on new employees to Payson, there might be some other incentives that they would be eligible for.
And I'll weigh in on this. I love this so much because all I care about is hunting. So I think what they're doing is great. However, they said that they don't have their land acquisition in place with BLM, and it's been sticky. So it could take some time before they actually are able to get their land. And while I think that's geographically it's a smart location because the Wasatch Front is going to continue to expand south. There may be other locations that they could find down the road. They could get some land from Michelle, be a great partnership with Trust Lands. But they also mentioned that they have a huge foundation that is well endowed, which tells me they may not need our money to complete the project. It'd be nice to have, but not a need to have.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought as well.
I had the same thoughts as Jeff. Like the BLM land acquisition was like an initial, big red flag, just because we don't know, as opposed to working with the city or the county on potential, or the state and Michelle, whatever the opportunity is, why they went straight to the hardest nut to crack was interesting in my opinion, as far as land acquisition goes. And then, the private sector funding possibility for Southern Utah County is kind of through the roof, right? So why isn't that being kind of the first point of asks with their foundation? So.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we allocate $2.5 million for completing the Colorado River Parkway Trail. I'll throw that out for consideration.
I will second that. And Mr. Stroud and I had an opportunity to experience that shortfall on the Colorado River this last year.
Yeah, I've experienced that many times, and there is a nexus with unpaved trails in the sense that it's a paved trail, but it really allows people that are completing the whole enchilada trail to safely get back to town.
The one thing I'll say about that portion of the road that is not completed is you're so exhausted by the time you get there that you don't really realize what you're doing. So, but it would to that end, it would be nice to have that completed because it would be much safer for exhausted trail riders.
Did the matching funding that's available for this, is Grant County putting anything into this? And maybe I'd ask Commissioner Taylor and Brandy to weigh in on the ability for Grant County to participate. Unlike Beaver County, Grant County has the ability to to raise and use funds because their tourism is so strong. And the completion of the trail certainly adds to their tourism dollar availability. So I just wondered that question.
Well, first off, I don't have any idea about Grand County. So I think they've got a lot of money.
They seem to. Yeah, a lot of tourism-related dollars. A good portion of it's restricted for certain uses. So.
Yeah, that's probably a good point, is that, you know, for example, TRT taxes probably couldn't be used for a project like this, I would imagine.
Question for Josh. If this 2.5 million was all that was needed to complete this project, would that up its score potentially on the with the Utah Trails group with your organization?
Certainly lower funding dollars would help. Price is not a huge component, and I don't have the prioritization network in front of me. Certainly it would help, right? Just because it's a lower allocation of the total dollar value. The chair, can I ask to abstain from any votes that might put me in employment conflict?
You absolutely, you can abstain.
Okay.
You're welcome to do that.
Sorry, I just don't want to be seen as doing anything. Yeah. Yes, it would be better.
I'll just say, it does say in their application, Grand County is also pursuing funding to support this project. We don't really know what that means. I think they could use the portion of TRT for development for this, couldn't they, Brandy?
A portion of it, yeah. I also wondered about if we could also talk about, not remembering the one that I believe was a campground near Wayne County, similar situation where a development near Wayne County could really be helpful to them.
Yeah,
but was that Kent?
We haven't got to the Forest Service.
We
haven't got to the Forest Service yet, but yeah, that's a Forest Service project.
Kent's Lake, maybe?
No, that one.
Mesa.
Oh, yeah. Meeks Mesa.
Meeks Mesa.
Yeah.
But I think we need to vote on this motion before we move on.
Yeah, let's, if there's no more discussion, let's go ahead and.
Can we look at the spending totals before we vote? Like, what do we spend already?
15. So this would take us up to 17.5, and we're almost to the max. So if there are other projects.
And let me ask again, this is for appropriation in the coming fiscal year.
I think we're probably talking about the current fiscal year that we're in.
Okay. So we still have room for projects that that might need a little more time to negotiate or do preparation or whatever for recommendations for next fiscal year. Correct?
Right.
Okay. We need to do a roll call vote for that?
Yeah, let's go do a roll call vote.
All right, roll call vote. Michelle?
I sit on this end. So are we asking for the entire 5 million for this, or was it the 2.5? I lost track. 2.5, yay.
I suggested 2.5, yeah.
2.5 million. Yay.
No.
Aye.
I'll vote yes.
No.
No.
Okay, Josh?
Oh, he can't.
Would like to abstain.
Oh, he's abstaining, that's correct. Krista?
Aye.
And Chair Stanquist?
I'll vote yes.
Okay. 7 yes votes and 3 no votes.
So I want to make another motion, but I want to also, these Forest Service projects are all pretty large ticket items. And now we're running out of money on that. I don't think I can make a motion, but for discussion of the Forest Service projects, I think the one that was most intriguing to me was that Meeks Mesa, because of the county that it lies in, and has not been able to take advantage of our grants very much, and it hosts a very popular national park, like all of that, right? Like that was just a huge need for that, which I thought was fascinating. That being said, it's one of the bigger requests, minus the Pineview project. So there are lower hanging fruit in the Forest Service projects that are there were a handful. I think the Kent's Lake and maybe the Spruces were also ones that I think are like 75% done. They're just asking for money to help cover the inflation costs and from the GOA money that they got, federal money they got. So those are also the other ones like to take into consideration as like priority, instead of leaving those projects partially unfinished that have already made so much progress and can be done probably as soon as the snow melts this year. So it would make an impact really quickly.
Yeah, the Duck Creek and Spruces, that's about a $2.5 million request. Those are both shovel-ready, high match ratio due to the Great American Outdoors Act funding. I was unclear about, I'm sorry, Brad.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was unclear about the Meeks Mesa one, if there is NEPA required on that.
I would move that we put the Meeks Mesa campground next on the prioritization after we go through the next phase of working with the applicants and making sure that that we know exactly what money's being distributed, that this be next on the list for consideration.
I'll second that.
So to clarify, do we want to put that in the recommendation for fiscal year 24-25?
Well, I would say sooner if one of these other projects falls off or they're not able to secure other funding that's anticipated. And if not, then carry it to the next year.
Yeah, and just to review, Patrick had that up. NEPA is scheduled to be done. It's scheduled to be done in June 2024. Cultural inventory scheduled to be done early 2024. Engineering's done. But there is still handfuls of traffic study, geotechnical stuff. And so it's saying construction 2026 is what it's saying right now is the plan with what's left.
Yeah. So if we allocated that out of the 24-25 fiscal year, it's still ahead of when they could actually use that money.
Yeah, I don't know which part of the money they're using for construction versus they might be using some of this money for the geotechnical, and engineering plans and stuff like that. But maybe they can get
maybe partial funding.
Maybe they can put it on their Amex and pay it off later once we pay them.
Right, especially if they're talking about June, and I mean, because fiscal year starts July 1st.
I'm having trouble finding the link. What is the price tag again on Meeks Mesa?
$4.5 million.
4.5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've secured funding for the traffic study and the geotech.
Oh, it has been secured.
Yep.
Oh yeah, funding secured.
And I'll mention too, I mean, we talked about allocating money in the current and future fiscal year, but if I think we could have a future meeting in a few months to basically we could start putting together recommendations for next year. We don't really have to have all of that money recommended for the upcoming fiscal year, because that money, just like now we're already in 2024 and we're just now providing recommendations. So that is a consideration that we could have additional meetings for additional project recommendations in the future. I suppose we don't necessarily need to feel like we have to do all of that, for both fiscal years tonight.
That seems like another opportunity for a project nomination period as well.
Potentially. I'm just kind of thinking out loud, not to mention it's after midnight here and I'm just a wreck.
Would that mean meeting March 12th would be the next date for this commission to get together?
Well, I mean, if we meet after the session, then really we're looking at next year's legislative session for that allocation. But so I guess it just depends on what the feeling of the commission is. If we want to allocate those now, of course, we could take a vote now, and then in next year's as we're considering recommendations for next year's session, we could always make modifications.
Mr. Chairman, is there an appropriation ask for the commission for next year?
No, I mean, this is so money is going into the fund. And so what we're really doing is we're providing a recommendation for the legislature to allocate that money out of the fund. Whatever money's in the fund, we're just recommending these are the projects that we are recommending the legislature fund out of the restricted account.
Just to clarify,
but money's going into the restricted account automatically.
The restricted account is funded through a sales tax.
Several NAICS codes in sales tax.
Yeah, well, no, it's just a 1%.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
Can take another low-hanging fruit here. I make a motion that we fund the Spruces Campground at $412,000. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I'd like to make a substitute motion that we fund the Spruces Campground at the requested amount and allocate the balance of what we have left to the Duck Creek Campground.
I can second that.
I think that's a good motion.
As far as discussion, what was the status of the Duck? I didn't look at the status of the Duck Creek as far as
Shovel ready.
Shovel ready.
Yep. It's a shortfall basically, and they're just looking for money to fill in the gaps for that.
And how much was it? Because what will we have in
1.5 or
remaining? We'll have close to $1 million maybe remaining.
I thought we had. Did we vote on the Meeks Campground? What do we do with that? We did vote? Okay, sorry.
For next year, for next year's funding, because they're not ready.
Gotcha.
Wait, I do not have Meeks Mesa on this list. Is that correct?
Yeah, we didn't vote.
They're not ready. Oh, yeah, I guess we didn't take a vote.
Yeah, we didn't take a vote on
Motion
that.
in a second, we didn't vote.
Oh,
Yeah.
Excuse me for implementing another motion.
So to clarify, the motion is to fund the Meeks Mesa out of the next fiscal year's allocation. Is that correct?
Yes.
The next available tranche of funding.
Yes.
Whether it's this year's or next year's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so if there's no further discussion on that motion, I'll take a voice vote on that one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, that passes. And so let's go, Pitt, do you want to restate your motion?
Yeah, let's take it off the table, and I'll actually just kind of restate Jeff's motion. But I make a motion to fund the Spruces Campground at its full requested amount, and then the remaining balance of our appropriated dollars to go towards the Duck Creek Campground project.
I will second that.
And then does your motion include that the additional funding request for Duck Creek be funded out of next year's allocation?
Sure.
I won't add it to my motion, but will somebody take a note that we want to do that? Yes.
Okay. Right, more discussion on that motion. Okay. Seeing none, I'll take a voice vote on that one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, any opposed? Okay, that motion passes.
So to be clear, add the Spruces to it first and see what that remaining amount is, and then we can.
Are we trying to get this to 19 million? Is that when you said the remainder of the allocated budget? So that would
Unless we have more than 19 million in there.
And there's more than, I think there is more than 19 million.
Yeah, great. So whatever.
Spruces.
Unless there's enough to cover all of it, but I don't think there's that much interest.
And currently, it's going to be $764,090 if we're getting to that 19 million mark.
That's what's left. To 19 million.
To 19 million, yeah.
How much
Could be more though, if there's a little more in there. Okay.
I don't have those figures on me though.
Representative, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Bless you.
You're my favorite commissioner.
Okay, there's a motion to adjourn. All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Go get some rest.
Any opposed? Yeah. Okay, thanks everyone for your work, really appreciate it. And we'll pick up this work, I guess, probably after the session. So thank you very much. Oh, and there is, I will say to everyone, there is an event, I think it's next week on, what, the 17th?
Yes, that's
Or a
correct.
press event, yeah, to announce the strategic plan, which all of you have worked so hard on. And so please, if you have the opportunity to attend that, it's going, we want to make a big PR push to really celebrate our completion of that strategic plan. So if you're able to attend, please do. Jason and Tara can provide the details.
I'll just say this is my last commission meeting. Natalie Randall, my successor, will be at the next meeting, or I expect that she will choose to represent the office. And I've really enjoyed working with all of you and birthing this.
Thank you so much, Vicki. I'm sorry I'm not there to congratulate you and wish you well in person. So best wishes to you.
Go to the wool store in Galway.
Thank you.
And I just quickly wanted to say thank you, everybody. Appreciate all your work on this. And thank you, Representative Stenquist.
And thanks to our staff. Patrick put in a lot of work to make this work as best as possible on this time frame. A lot of work. So thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Thanks.